Shalom, Akim, Shalom, Call, Hello, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakahakudash. I want to send double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to you, Akim, out there pushing the word in sincerity and truth. This is Brother Ariala, and this is a quick Algo update speaking on Russia relationships with its different key allies as far as World War III goes. And I'm going to start off with Revelation 11 and 14. One of my favorites, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And as we understand, that third woe is the war of Armageddon. Basically, all of these nations coming together, gathering in the Valley of Jehoshaphat and strategic locations all across the world and going to war. And Russia is going to be an integral centerpiece as far as economically, with supplying of different natural gas and economic resources, and then on the military end, providing the weaponry to the small nations and allowing them to beat their plowshares and their pruning hooks into swords and spears. And at the forefront of that, you have the relationship that I want to talk about today is the relationship between Ethiopia and Sudan, or Kush, with Gog and Magog, right, and Russia. And so I want to just kind of go over that a little bit. That's been kind of touching in the news. I had a Ephraimite brother hit me up with some news. I said, hey, I'll do a little lesson on this because it is relevant to what we got going on right now. Ethiopia is going through a civil war, and you'll have to Google it to go find out what's going on a little bit more with the Tigray people. But right now there's a civil war in Ethiopia with a political faction called the Tigray people and the kind of federal faction that runs Ethiopia. And Ethiopia, Eritrea, they've kind of come together to fight against this kind of faction that's been around forever. Well, not forever, but a really long time. But in the midst of all that, you got the United States putting sanctions on Ethiopia and riling them up. Now, it does slow them down economically with some things that they have going on with Russia. So all of these things are pieces of the puzzle, which I want to kind of build and talk about leading into Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. We'll touch on that and then finish it up. But just to start things off here, I'm going to play this quick news clip.
More than 10,000 people in Ethiopia are taking part in an anti-US rally in the capital. They denounced President Joe Biden's policy on the conflict in the country's northern Tigray region. People also showed their support for Russia and China. Thousands have been killed in the conflict, mainly.
Notice how they throw it in there. People also showed their support for China and Russia. So amongst these anti-United States rallies, you have them also being very upfront with showing support for China and Russia. All of this plays into the third woe.
Civilians. America and its associates, without understanding the ways of the TPLF forces and disastrous acts, they're interfering in our domestic affairs by imposing travel sanctions and prerequisites, which can by no means be accepted. They should stop and think thoughtfully about the issue to correct it. US President Joe Biden has called for a ceasefire in the conflict, which is now in its 7th month, and imposed restrictions on visas and economic assistance. But protesters say they're meddling. I came out today to oppose the idea of foreign countries trying to interfere in our domestic affairs and babysit us. We are a sovereign country. As a sovereign country, our people and our government...
Now, when you read about this in Habakkuk, the second chapter, it talks about that shameful spewing. These nations that basically have been controlled by the Western paradigm, the Western power structure, chiefly America, Babylon the Great, are now they're wanting to break free. These small nations are wanting to break free and exert their sovereignty outside of the United States control. So they're like, hey, we're handling our business over here in our nation. What y'all got to do with it? Why y'all messing up with our money? It's trying to shut us down. Mind your business. Because the United States has put sanctions on Ethiopia.
Side for our country. Ethiopia, my country, will proceed forward and won't go back. America should take its hands off us. and Egypt should refrain from the Nile Dam to show them that we Ethiopians will continue as a nation. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed sent troops to confront the leaders of Tigray.
Notice how they have the pictures of Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. Okay? They have the pictures of China and Russia together. And this is all prophecy, baby. You can't make this up. You know? We Ethiopian young people denounce the Western intervention. Okay? It is my damn. Now, you know, we're on the internet right now. This could be fake. I don't know. I'm over here in Dallas. But this does speak towards prophecy.
Of Tigray's ruling party, accusing them of attacks on federal army camps. Both sides have been accused by human rights groups of committing crimes against civilians, including mass rapes and killings.
Okay, so you have that news, and this is on the backdrop of basically Russia being coming into Africa since really 2015, but really kind of ramping up in 2018-19 with development of nuclear plant facilities, sellings of weapons, and everything like that. So I wanted to play this clip because, like I said, it fits in with Russia being a guard unto them that we read about in the book of Ezekiel, and we're gonna pull that here in a minute.
Heavy civil machinery stood across from fighter jets, helicopters, and military trucks. Moscow had its military wares on prominent display to entice potential buyers at the Russia-Africa summit. And for President Vladimir Putin, this event was a chance to strengthen Russia's military ties to Africa.
Our military cooperation is aimed at strengthening African armed forces' combat capability. Russia has
aimed at strengthening Africa's combat forces. Okay?
Contract agreements with more than 30 countries, which we supply with a wide range of armaments and equipment. Our African partners participate actively in Russia's military forms and exercises, and the number of those who want to join is growing.
President Putin said Russia wants to expand joint efforts.
So Russia said, hey, these are all the Hamites, all of these guys are coming together. The Arabs, Ham, they're getting together with Russia and they're getting their weapons games up. They're training. Okay? Nations that we don't even know about. Okay? 30 nations.
Efforts for combating terrorism and extremism, a major issue for some
You know it's musty up in there. Woo, woo.
African countries.
I want to address the difficult situation we are facing in the Sahel sub-region. I would like to say I appreciate all efforts to fight the security issues and to address the humanitarian situation that takes such a deadly toll on our populations.
Russian military officials also said on Thursday that Moscow would carry on supplying its Pantsir surface-to-air missile systems to Equatorial Guinea. They also hinted that Moscow could supply helicopters to Mozambique and air defense systems to Uganda. Weapons exports are a way for Russia to deepen military cooperation and demonstrate diplomatic clout. Africa is an area for potential growth for the Kremlin's defense industry, as the continent accounts for only about 17% of Russia's arms sales. Many African countries say they still have military equipment from the Cold War supplied by the Soviet Union. But as Moscow looks to wield its military influence across Africa, it faces competition from Beijing.
Right. So now you got China and you got Russia. China coming in from a more economic standpoint, and Russia coming in from a more militaristic security standpoint. And both of them are basically supplying the land base of Africa with the structure that they need, for World War III.
Chinese presence is more visible because they have actual troops there, they have a military base, and they have all these peacekeeping forces. But I think we are also making a lot of impact by our arms sales and by our training of the African militaries.
Boom. So as you can see, that he just said that China has boots on the ground, bases already set up in all around Africa, and meanwhile, Russia is supplying weaponry and doing some weapons training. All of this plays into the overall role. I'm going to play one more clip, and then I'm going to get to a couple of scriptures and then wrap up this update. Okay?
Africa. Trade between Russia and Africa is growing at a very fast rate, doubling in the past 5 years to 20 billion annually. Though this is still below the share of trade held by other world powers such as the US and China. Russia is the largest arms supplier to the African continent, but Russia is broadening its economic relations with African countries beyond arms sales, in particular by increasing its investments in oil, gas, and other natural resources. Russia is also reasserting its influence in Africa by enhancing its security presence in multiple ways. In addition to the arms sales, Moscow is concluding security agreements and conducting military training, in particular with a number of unstable or autocratic states in Africa, such as the Central African Republic, Libya, and Mozambique. One of Russia's stated priorities in Africa is to advance regional peace and security, and this is a priority it shares with the United States. However, given Moscow's and Washington's different histories and different approaches in Africa, it's unlikely that the U.S. and Russia will significantly collaborate in this regard. For its part, Russia has focused on giving African countries easier access to arms with fewer constraints related to human rights, government transparency, and public opinion.
So basically, he's just saying Russia handing out them weapons like a mug. And and just like I said, it fits into the overall narrative that we have been talking about. Ezekiel 38:1 says, "And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, and the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed and with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords." So weapons. All right, so I'm going to put the hooks back into you, and you're going to come back into this warlike state, and you're going to get ready for this war that I'm going to throw you into. Okay? Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia, which is what we're talking about, the land of Cush, and Libya, which was just mentioned in the previous interviewer, with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah and of the north quarters, and all of his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. See that? And be thou a guard unto them. And so how is Russia being a guard unto them? He's helping them prepare energy resources, military resources, security, understanding, and know-how, okay, for a great war. That's what's happening. Okay, and now, I mentioned this, I'm not going to read it. Ethiopia, Russia extend cooperation in nuclear energy, which is necessary for modern combat, right? But I want to read this article here from davidjeremiah.org, and they kind of go into biblical prophecy, but some of the things, chew the meat, spit out the bones. But I always love when they use maps and everything like that. It talks about the future Russian alliance, right? And it says, in Ezekiel 38, the Lord revealed a 10-nation coalition that will assemble in the last days. The names and places that Ezekiel describes are foreign to us today, but a closer look at scripture and history will help us translate these into modern times. You will not find the name Russia anywhere in the Bible, but the nation we know as Russia figures prominently in prophecy. In Ezekiel's list of 10 names, the third name, Rush, is most likely the territory we know as Russia. Not only do the two names bear phonetic similarity, but Ezekiel's description of the location also points to Russia. Okay? Because when it's talking about that word Rosh, it's talking about that word for chief. When you go here in Ezekiel 38:2, and it says the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Look that word up. Chief. The word there is Rosh. Okay? So that's what that's talking about. But anyway, continuing on in this article, it says biblical prophets assumed Israel to be the center of the world. Whenever we find compass points or geographical directions in prophecy, they are given in relation to the position of Israel. Ezekiel and Daniel both describe Israel's end-time aggressor as descending from the north. Daniel used the phrase king of the north to describe the commander of the alliance. That's not what that's talking about. Ezekiel's prophecy lends support to Daniel's, indicating the invading armies will arrive from Israel from the north. Now, although in Ezekiel 38 it is talking about Russia, so like we said, chew the meat, spit the bones out. Russia is the only modern nation to match this description. Here's a glimpse of what the future Russian alliance will look like, and this is really what I want brothers to take a look at. It's good stuff right here, as we can see all of these nations coming together to fight. And if you understand what's going on right now, you will know that all of these nations are currently economically tied together. All of them. All of them do weapons deals together. All of them do economic deals together currently. All right, from France to Libya, Ethiopia, Turkey, Iran, and even all these nations that really were a part of the old Soviet Union, but we kind of still consider them Russia in a way. They're Magog. That's really just Russia. Okay? And so when you look at this, it says the name of they're saying that Gog is the name of a person, blah, 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 blah. Magog, modern day Stan countries, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, perhaps all the stands really just Russia, right? Noah's second son, when you want to go and look it up, okay? It talks about how they're predominantly Muslim, Meshach and Tubal. Many experts identify these territories as modern Turkey. 56 sons of Noah, fifth and sixth sons of Noah. It mentions how Iran is Persia. Then it mentions Ethiopia, founded by Cush, grandson of Noah. See? Modern day Sudan and Ethiopia. Okay? Sudan is one of Israel's greatest enemies. The Edomites and Israel's greatest enemies, and even before that, in the scripture as well. Okay? Talks about Libya. All these nations are coming together for a battle or a fight. Okay? And so they're going to go and battle in the land of Israel, in and around the valley of Jehoshaphat. All of this stuff is going to go down. Okay? All of these things are going to go down. Now, when you go to the bottom, it says, these are the nations that will form a coalition and march against Israel, setting the stage for this gigantic world war focused on the Holy Land. Though the northern armies of Russia and Turkey will lead the coalition, they will be joined by Iran from the east, Sudan and Libya from the south, and possibly Germany from the west, in the form of revived European coalition nation. Yes, so you're going to have France/Germany come together and break off from that 10 horns. We always talk about that and how geopolitically and economically they're at odds with the UN consistently. And it lends to prophecy, right? That lends to prophecy. Okay? All of these things are getting ready to go down. And so we're seeing the pieces of the algorithm come together for war, right? Revelation 28:8, and shall go out and to see the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, together to battle, the number of whom is as the sands of the sea. All right? That's what's getting ready to happen, man. These nations are going to come together and be ready to fight and be ready to shoot their weaponry all on the Edomites, all on the state of Israel, all on Babylon the Great, even of itself. It's going to go down, man. Even over in Europe, this is going to be a war of wars, okay? And Russia is a centerpiece, as we read there in Ezekiel 38:39, of basically allowing these nations to come together. You link it up with Joel, the 3rd chapter, and everything like that, and you can see it and see how it comes to play. Okay, so I don't want to belabor the point, man. I just wanted to kind of go and touch on that and do a quick Algo update. As more information and news comes out, we'll always kind of keep that posted and bring it out. But if you brothers want to post some scriptures and add comments on the comment board, please do. Call halal Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah Bahashem Rakah Kudash. Double honors once again to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to you. I'm out there pushing the words in city and truth. Shalom.